Hi, Gary DeWaal here, and this is Bridging the Week for February 24th to 28th, and today is March 3rd, 2014. Good morning. The necessity precisely to comply with U.S. exchange requirements regarding exchange of futures for related positions and block trades was highlighted last week through disciplinary actions brought by the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and ICE Futures. In addition, a UK Financial Conduct Authority enforcement action suggested the need for registrants to consider carefully the impact of not telling one regulator about a material enforcement investigation or action being undertaken by another regulator regarding an affiliate, even when the affiliate may be outside the same country. We have these stories and more this week, so let's get going. The UK Financial Conduct Authority fined FX dealers, Forex Capital Markets, and FXCM Securities 4 million Great British pounds or 6.7 million US dollars for allowing a US affiliated company not to pass along trading profits that should have been paid to the company's UK customers. Previously, in 2011, both the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission and the National Futures Association had imposed fines against Forex Capital Markets, a U.S.-based affiliated entity, of over 8 million US dollars combined, mainly because the firm had failed to credit customers for certain beneficial price moves, but it debited the same customers for certain detrimental price movements. As part of its settlement with FCA, the UK FXCM companies agreed to reimburse their customers up to almost 10 million US dollars. Previously, FXCM Group reimbursed its US customers over 8 million US dollars. However, what should be noteworthy to most in the financial services industry is that in addition to assessing this significant sanction, the FCA also cited FXCM UK for failing, quote, to be sufficiently open and cooperative and disclose to the authority information of which it would reasonably expect notice, end of quote, mainly information regarding investigations and settlements by the CFTC and NFA in 2010 and 2011. The losses by FXCM's customers were sustained because of asymmetric price slippage that occurred between the times a customer's order was placed and the price the order was executed. The impact on individual trades was very small. On average, only about $3.70 US cents. The FXCM UK companies themselves, unlike their US affiliate, did not retain any gains from favorable price movements. FXCM's violations occurred from 2006 through 2010, after which the FXCM Group corrected its practices. This FCA enforcement action demonstrates how at least one regulator may find it a violation of its requirements if a registrant does not disclose to it certain material matters involving an affiliated firm outside the regulator's jurisdiction. Even if no specific enforcement action emanates, regulators typically are not happy to learn from media reports or other third parties, including from other regulators, of material events involving companies affiliated with a company within their jurisdiction. As a result, companies should assess when an event within a group structure is material and whether it should be disclosed to regulators of affiliated companies, even if such regulators have no jurisdiction over the entity. This is the case particularly where a material adverse development has occurred or a major corporate structure change. Clearly, because of the actual enforcement actions in the US, this case is pretty black and white. But are there shades of gray? You bet. That's why firms have to be on the lookout. You don't want to be arousing regulator envy. A major development last week was when the Chicago Mercantile Exchange brought 9 disciplinary actions against a cross-section of clearing members and traders in violation of its rules related exchange of futures for related positions. 5 of the cases allege that the respondent failed to maintain required documents supporting the EFRP. 2 cases claim that the respondent failed to submit notice of the EFRP timely to the CME. And 2 respondents were charged with violating both a prohibition against the same market participant being on both sides of the same EFRP, as well as not maintaining required documents. In each matter, the CME alleged that, as a result of its EFRP rules not being followed, the relevant EFRP was not bona fide. There are strict rules related to the execution of EFRPs, and they must be strictly complied with. I have some helpful hints on EFRPs in the Compliance Weeds section of a special article I published on these enforcement actions on my website. Check it out. Well, there are EFRPs, and then there are block trades. Last week, ICE Futures also fined Macquarie Bank Limited and Peter Hahn, one of its employees, for entering an order on August 2nd, 2011 that allegedly took advantage of information that the firm received in connection with pre-execution communications related to a block trade in sugar number 11 futures. Macquarie Futures USA, an FCM, was also fined for not reporting the block trade within the exchange required time frame. The three respondents combined paid a fine of $490,000 US to settle this matter without admitting or denying the relevant rule violations. Although it is not clear from ICE Futures' announcement what the underlying facts were in connection with the settlement, the announcement serves as a reminder that block trades must also, like EFRPs, be executed strictly in accordance with exchange rules. Typically, exchange block trade rules set forth the minimum qualifications of counterparties, the minimum size of the block trade, time reporting requirements, a ban on the entity receiving the customer orders from trading for itself based on the order information, meaning no pre-hedging or anticipatory hedging, and a requirement that once a person receives non-public information regarding a potential block trade, it cannot trade to take advantage of such information in advance of the public report of the block trade by the exchange. Again, these rules must be strictly and formally complied with at all times, or else. The CFTC issued 10 recommended best practices for future commission merchants, commodity trading advisors, introducing brokers, retail foreign exchange dealers, swap dealers, and major swap participants to comply with their obligations to maintain confidentiality, their customer records, and information. Among other matters, the Commission cautioned firms to identify foreseeable, quote-unquote, internal and external risks to security, confidentiality, and integrity of personal information and system processing personal information that could potentially result in confidentiality breaches, as well as to establish processes and controls to help mitigate against such risks, and to develop and implement policy and procedures now for how the firm will respond if there is a confidentiality breach later. ICE Futures US proposes amendments to its error trade policy automatically to reject limit orders to its electronic trading system outside its reasonability limit range. Currently, limit orders outside ICE Futures reasonability limits are automatically rejected unless the orders are capable of trading opposite previously resting orders at more favorable prices within the reasonability limit. These amendments should become effective on March 10th. Similar rule change have been proposed for ICE Futures Europe and ICE Futures Canada. Would existence of similar rules have prevented the calamity involving HandMag Securities during December 2013 on the Career Exchange? Perhaps. And finally, 3 potential commissioners, including a new potential chairperson of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, will appear before the U.S. Senate Agricultural Committee this week on March 6th. Timothy Massad, to be chairman, Sharon Bowen, and J. Christopher Giancarlo. Well, that's it for this week's Gary DeWaal's Bridging the Week. As always, there are more articles and more detail in many of the articles I discussed on this video on the article version of Bridging the Week on my website. Check it out. Maybe by the time we speak again next week, the US CFTC will be at full strength. Not likely, but it's always possible. Until then, that is next week, this is Gary DeWaal. Ciao!